As we're driving along here, Wifey in our Model 3 has this alert that says the vehicle may not restart. Electrical system is unable to support all features. And the vehicle has completely lost power. The long and short of this is we called Tesla. They did some remote troubleshooting, asked us to power off and power back on. And we're going to have our vehicle towed to the nearest Tesla service center. Seems like the rear motor may have actually just died. And we are on the side of the road here, traffic zooming by at 70 plus miles an hour. Hey, this is Brian G, the EVOG, and you're joining me here back in the cockpit of Red Riot, our 2018 Tesla Model 3 long range. This is my daughter's car, and exactly 4 weeks ago today, on September 1st, my wife and I were road tripping from Cape Cod back to Silver Spring, Maryland. I was in our Rivian R1T, and Wifey was driving this Model 3. And for the first time in 11 and a half years of EV ownership across 8 different EVs, 4 different brands, we actually had a drive unit fail. The rear drive unit on this vehicle blew out while we were driving from Massachusetts back to Maryland. So we pulled over to the side of the road, called AAA. Well, we called Tesla first, roadside assistance. They did some remote diagnostics and ultimately told us the vehicle needed to be towed to the nearest Tesla service center, which happened to be Milford, Connecticut, right off of I95 there. So for the last 4 weeks, that's where this vehicle has been. And this was our first time experiencing that type of catastrophic failure. So the intent here with this video is to walk you guys through all of the gory details in terms of engaging with Tesla service, walking through the 3 or 4 different estimates that we got from them, sharing with you what we ultimately ended up having done from a repair standpoint, the costs associated with that. I've already shared with you that I'm picking the car up exactly 4 weeks from the day it was towed there. So that's how long it took. But there was some additional drama in the process there. So join me for this one as I walk you guys through all of the gory details and share what our experience was. So just to give you a little bit more color, Wifey actually heard a pop or a thump in the rear of the vehicle. Her initial thought was that maybe I ran over something in the road, but she quickly realized that that wasn't the case, right? I was right in front of her in the R1T, and she realized, now that we've got these alerts on the center touchscreen, that this was something that was internal to the rear drive unit of the vehicle. That sort of popping sound is something that you're going to hear me talk about a little bit more as I get into some of the details of the diagnostics by the Milford Tesla service team. But that was on Sunday, September 1st, the day before Labor Day. So AAA came, towed the vehicle to Milford, and Monday was a federal holiday, so there wasn't anything going on. On Tuesday, that was when I submitted the service request. It wasn't until Wednesday, September 4th, that our service request was confirmed by the Milford service team, and the ball essentially started rolling at that point. We got our initial estimate, which was for roughly 250 bucks for a 12 volt replacement, because when that pop occurred, apparently one of the things that happened as a part of this failure was our 12 volt battery died. And we had not, prior to this happening on I-95 on September 1st, received any sort of indication that there was any issue with our 12 volt battery. But because that was dead, they needed to replace that in order to start the diagnostic process of understanding exactly where the failure was in our vehicle. So after an hour of diagnostics, one of the things that they came back with was a blown pyro fuse. And they indicated that that was the noise that my wife heard, that sort of popping sound was that blown pyro fuse tied to the rear drive unit. Now, later that day, we also got a second estimate for roughly $475, a revised estimate at this point for $475 for essentially another hour of diagnostics. They were looking to really try and understand, why did that pyro fuse blow? The other thing that forced them down this path is that as they brought the vehicle back up after replacing the 12 volt battery, they started to see a number of what they called high voltage alerts. So at that point, seeing that the estimate essentially doubled to 475 bucks, all of this communication, by the way, is happening within the Tesla app. There's a service component to the app, and so that's how you're able to communicate back and forth with the service team, for those of you that are unfamiliar. So my response at that point was, isn't this a part of the powertrain if we're talking about the rear drive unit and the pyro fuse associated with that? So I specifically asked the question, hey, isn't this covered under my powertrain warranty? And the response I got didn't come until September 5th, that Thursday. And the response I got was, not all high voltage components are covered. That was the extent of the message that I received. So that was essentially the end of the first week of the ordeal. And at that point, we had a completion estimate of Friday, September 13th. Week 2 of this ordeal began on Monday, September 9th, when I reached out again via the app to ask for an update on the status of our repair. I didn't get a response on Monday. It wasn't until Tuesday the 10th that I got a response, and that response indicated that, hey, we've checked the high voltage battery as well as the inverters to try and understand why that pyro fuse blew. And they also let me know that we're checking all high voltage battery components to find this issue. And at that point, I got a third estimate for approximately 700 and change. And this was more labor hours to continue the diagnostic process. Now, fortunately, on Tuesday afternoon, the 10th, I got an update again via the app indicating that they believe they've identified the root cause. And at this point, they pointed out that the rear drive unit needed to be replaced. They let me know that they were going to be ordering a new one, and that everything at this point now would be covered under the drive unit warranty. So that was obviously a relief, right? That 700 and some odd dollar latest estimate was now a thing of the past. Everything would be covered under warranty. It was really just a question now of how long would it take them to get the appropriate parts, complete the repair, testing, and so on, so that we can pick up the vehicle. So they also let me know that at this point we're awaiting an ETA for when parts would come in. They didn't know that answer at that time. So Friday the 13th was the end of week 2, and at that point we had no ETA for parts. But they did update the completion estimate to Friday the 20th. So they anticipated getting those parts the following week, being able to do the repair, and ultimately get the vehicle back to us by the end of week 3. Now, week 3 was Monday, September 15th, and later that week on Thursday, we were going to be going back to Cape Cod from Maryland. And so I sent in a request on Monday to pick up a loaner, right? We're coming in on Thursday on our way to Cape Cod to pick up a loaner. I didn't get a response on Monday. It wasn't until Tuesday, the 16th, that they let me know, hey, that's totally doable. Just send us a note to remind us on Thursday morning, and we'll have a loaner ready to go when you get there. So at this point, we got no more news or communication until Thursday as we were driving north again on I95 and the New Jersey Turnpike. We reached out to them to let them know, hey, we're a little ways out, and is that loaner ready? And at that point, they let me know that the repair is complete, and they believe that we'll be able to pick up the vehicle. Now, at this point, we were probably an hour or two away from the service center. And so I said, that's great. If it's ready, we will pick it up. However, if for some reason it's not ready, please have a loaner ready for us to pick up. So they let us know they'll have a loaner ready to go. The service center was going to be closing at 5 p.m. and our ETA was right at 5 p.m. to get to Milford. And so they stuck around. We got there. They indicated that the car was ready to go. We opened her up and we started to do a bit of a walk around. And let me just cut to that video so you can see what we saw when we got there to pick up our Model 3. Look at all the fingerprints that are on the door. They did not take the time to reattach this pedal cover. Just put it over here. My daughter's steering wheel covers had been white. They're obviously not. And that's just some of what we found. So, not sure what this is up here, but just not a good experience coming to pick up the vehicle. And of course, no effort to wash it. I'm not even sure if that's a thing with Tesla service anymore, but the primary issue is this. They said they needed to do this in order to get to the battery, 12-volt battery. I'm not sure why they would need to do that, because when the vehicle was towed here, the key was inside of it, so it would have been unlocked unless the 12-volt battery died and whatever. But when they opened this, they broke it because it doesn't snap back in, right? It will not stay in here. So this is actually broken. So they're going to keep it and address it, and I guess we'll have to come back and pick it up. But wifey is definitely not happy. Had she not done that walk around, we would have been leaving with the car like this and having to take it back to service once we got back to Maryland. So really a missed opportunity here by Tesla service. So she's gonna put it back over there into the service drop-off lane. And this will be our loaner. So as you can see, the vehicle was a bit of a mess. The driver's door card had a number of fingerprints. We don't know whether that was the tow truck driver or Tesla service that ultimately, made a mess there inside of the vehicle. But Tesla service was having us pick up the vehicle in that condition. But the bigger concern was the fact that the flap for our tow hook in the front of the vehicle, it was broken. And so it needed to be replaced. And so once we discovered that, we let them know, and we let them know that we would take the loaner, give them an opportunity to work on that on Friday, and we would pick up the vehicle on our way back to Maryland on Monday. So that gets us into week 4. And at this point, wifey's leaving Cape Cod to head back to Maryland in the loaner vehicle, and would stop in Milford, Connecticut to hopefully finally pick up our vehicle and drive the rest of the way back to Maryland. So when she left Cape Cod, I chatted within the service app to ask them to go ahead and plug in the vehicle so that it would be charged up and she could take it and continue her journey and not have to worry about picking it up, going to charge, and so on. So they let me know that's fine. They would take care of it. And after an hour or so, I went back into the app and I could see that our Model 3 was plugged in, but it wasn't charging. And from the app, you can start charging. So I kept hitting start charge and it would not charge. And so I sent them another message letting them know, hey guys, the vehicle is not charging. Can you, figure out what's going on there? And to make a long story short, they got back to me to let me know that there was another issue that they needed to repair. So at this point, our completion estimate is now Wednesday, September 25th. It would take them a couple of days to diagnose why it isn't charging and complete that repair. So we found ourselves in a tough spot because now wifey's back in Maryland, I'm still up in Massachusetts, and there would be some logistics that we would need to figure out in order to pick it up. And it probably wasn't going to happen on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, the 25th, we got notification that service was complete. What they let us know was that with our blown rear drive unit, they also needed to repair a part called the high voltage charger because that was apparently damaged when the pyro fuse blew and ultimately the rear drive unit went. I don't know why that wasn't diagnosed as a part of the original repair process, but it wasn't. Now, spare a thought for had I not reached out and asked them to plug in that vehicle. Essentially what would have happened is my wife would have picked up the car at 54, 55% state of charge, driven a ways down I-95 down I-95 and gotten to a supercharger, plugged the vehicle in, and it would not have charged. So once again, she would have been stranded at a supercharger and needing to call for a tow truck to tow the vehicle to, yet again, the nearest Tesla service center. So that was super disappointing and upsetting, because if we hadn't made that request for them to plug the vehicle in and charge it, they never would have diagnosed the fact that the HVC, high voltage charger, needed replacing as well. By the end of the day on Wednesday the 25th, they had replaced the high voltage charger. They had tested it both with level 2 charging as well as DC fast charging to confirm that all was well. So at this point now, we know that the vehicle is completely repaired and ready to be picked up. And on Friday, I let them know that, hey, because they're not open on Saturday, they're certainly not open on Sunday. So I let them know that I'd like them to plug the vehicle in, because I was going to come pick it up either Saturday or Sunday while they're closed, and drive it back to Maryland. I would drop off their loaner and pick up the vehicle and drive it back to Maryland. Per my request, they did plug it in. I could see that it was plugged in. I could see that it charged. I had it charged all the way up to about 85% or so that once I picked it up, I can get back on the road, headed back to Maryland. On Sunday, September 29th, was when I drove the 5 hours from Maryland to Milford, Connecticut, picked up the vehicle, dropped off their loaner, inspected it. I'll insert the video here so you can see kind of my walk around of the vehicle as I was picking it up. Finally back to pick up our 2018 Model 3 dual motor long range. And first point of inspection is here to see that our tow hook latch has been replaced. Okay, good job there. Quick walk around on the vehicle. It needed a bath from summer on Cape Cod anyway. That is still to be done once we get back to Maryland, but everything looks pretty good here. Looks pretty good in the back. And on the inside, like I said, definitely needs a bath, but they did reinstall our brake pedal cover, so thank you for that. Looks like we've got a little bit of scuffing here that may or may not have been by the Tesla team, but this stuff here, these fingerprints, those were not there. So yeah, got some cleanup to do. They didn't do much of that. As you can see, those fingerprints all along the driver door card still there. They did, however, repair the front tow hook panel, and the vehicle drove just fine. So all's well with our Model 3 now that it is back here in Maryland. So what are your thoughts? Would love for you to share your thoughts on this experience down in the comments section below. My thoughts on this are fairly straightforward. It was a disappointing experience. It took them a week to diagnose the problem. As you guys heard at the beginning of this video, we knew it was a blown rear drive unit 5 minutes after it happened. So it was disappointing that it took them a week to diagnose that issue. As you might imagine, the rest of the experience was further downhill, right? They tried to have us pick up a vehicle where they had created a new issue that required service by breaking the tow hook panel, and they either didn't notice or didn't care and gave us the vehicle to pick up. Right, so that was an issue. And then the third issue, where somehow in that original repair, they did not diagnose the fact that the high voltage charger had been damaged as a part of the rear drive unit, 12-volt battery, pyro fuse, all of that stuff happening impacted our vehicle's ability to charge, and they didn't seem to notice that. Had we not requested that they charge the vehicle before we picked it up, my wife would have been stranded at the very next supercharger. So again, super disappointing to have that experience. On a somewhat positive note, Tesla does send out a survey at the end of your service experience. And so I completed that survey, essentially told this entire story. And I specifically asked them, how do they plan to compensate us? So again, comment below if you think they will offer any sort of compensation. I haven't heard anything from them, and I don't anticipate that I will, but would love to know if you guys think differently or if you've had a different experience. So the service summary: 2 days to check in for an emergency roadside issue. It was more than a week to diagnose the rear drive unit failure and full warranty coverage. 3 weeks to complete the initial repair. They made a mess of the vehicle interior and broke the tow hook cover, creating a new service issue. They missed a critical HVC failure and replacement on the initial repair, which, as I mentioned multiple times now, would have had my wife stranded at a supercharger and prolonged our service, almost another week. Another positive was the loaner, which was a late Model 3 Standard Range Plus with supervised full self-driving. So I've got another video, shorter video coming that will cover the experience of the EVOG for the first time in 13 years driving Teslas, experiencing full self-driving. So looking forward to sharing that experience with you. Listen, if this is your first time here, please hit the subscribe button. Please like the video. Please share the video with anyone you think might benefit from it. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.